Are dragons, unicorns, and sea serpents real? According to the Bible, they may be. The Bible contains references to several mythological creatures that were part of ancient Middle Eastern folklore and legend. While some of these creatures are named specifically in the Bible, others are more vaguely described. Examining these mythological beings provides insight into the beliefs and stories that existed in the cultures of biblical times. One of the most famous mythological animals mentioned in the Bible is the unicorn. There are several references to unicorns in the King James Version of the Bible, describing them as powerful, wild beasts with a single horn protruding from their forehead. Scholars believe the unicorn may actually be referring to the now extinct aurochs, a large cattle-like mammal that had two horns but could appear to have one horn in profile. Descriptions of unicorns being untamable and possessing great strength were ways ancient writers conveyed the power and wonder of God's natural creation. In the Bible, the unicorn is described as a powerful, untamable animal. Job 39:9-12 suggests it is impossible to tame a unicorn. It reads, "Will the unicorn be willing to serve thee, or abide by thy crib? Canst thou bind the unicorn with his band in the furrow? Or will he harrow the valleys after thee? Wilt thou trust him, because his strength is great? Or wilt thou leave thy labor to him? Wilt thou believe him, that he will bring home thy seed, and gather it into thy barn?" Unicorns are mentioned in Numbers chapter 23 verse 22 and 24-8 as having great strength, along with other animals like lions and bulls. In Isaiah chapter 34 verse 7, God says he will punish the kingdom of Edom, and unicorns will also be slain. Psalm chapter 22 verse 21 refers to the unicorn's horn having great power, indicating unicorns were seen as supernatural creatures. It reads, "Save me from the lion's mouth, for thou hast heard me from the horns of the unicorns." While later translations of the Bible often substitute other words for unicorn, these passages remain intriguing glimpses of how biblical people understood mythic beasts of the natural world. Dragons, another staple of myth and folklore, also make appearances in the Bible. These creatures are typically seen as embodiments of chaos and evil. In the books of Psalms, Isaiah, and Jeremiah, dragons represent desolation and places abandoned by God. However, the most striking depiction of a dragon in the Bible is found in the book of Revelation. In Revelation chapter 12 verse 3-4, a great red dragon with 7 heads is described, an embodiment of Satan, who threatens the woman clothed with the sun and her child. It reads, "And there appeared another wonder in heaven. And behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born." The dragon symbolizes entities and forces that are adversarial to God and his plan of salvation. It is a powerful metaphor for anything that challenges the order established by God, whether it be spiritual entities like Satan or human tendencies towards sin and rebellion. Dragons also figured prominently in the literature and lore of neighboring cultures, including Mesopotamia and Egypt. The biblical mentions of dragons drew on widespread myths and legends about terrifying draconic monsters and serpents defeated by gods and heroes. As symbolic representations of chaos and sin, dragons served as powerful images of vanquished enemies and spiritual threats. The Bible also speaks of sea serpents or sea monsters, most notably Leviathan and Rahab. These creatures embody chaos and destruction, often representing the unruly forces of nature that only God can command or defeat. Leviathan, as described in Job 41, is a terrifying, insurmountable beast that humans can neither tame nor overcome. It serves to illustrate the vast gulf between human capability and divine power. The creature is a metaphor for the overwhelming challenges and trials that we, in our human frailty, cannot overcome without divine intervention. Rahab, on the other hand, is a sea monster used metaphorically to represent Egypt in the books of Psalms and Isaiah. The defeat of Rahab symbolizes God's deliverance of the Israelites from their bondage in Egypt, reinforcing the theme of God's power to save and liberate his people from seemingly insurmountable odds. These allusions tie biblical legends to the mythology of the ancient Near East. The connection of sea serpents to the ocean links them with primordial danger and chaos. As threatening forces originating from the depths of the sea, Sea serpents represent the power and mystery of the unknown marine environment. Defeating these mythical creatures represents God's mastery over powerful, chaotic forces of nature and the cosmos. Whether as symbolic monsters or real animals like crocodiles, the sea serpents referenced in the Bible emphasize the mysterious dangers lurking in seas and aquatic worlds bordering the biblical landscape. Aside from unicorns, dragons, and sea serpents, the Bible mentions several other mythological creatures like the Behemoth, Nephilim, and satyrs. The Behemoth, similar to the Leviathan, represents an untamed force of nature, a symbol of God's creation beyond human control or comprehension. The Nephilim, described as giants or sons of God in Genesis, symbolize the corruption of humanity that led to God's decision to send the Great Flood. Brief mentions of satyrs, or human-goat hybrids, reflect myths circulating in Greek and Roman culture. Through these kinds of mythological references, biblical texts incorporated ideas about fantastical creatures that neighboring cultures believed inhabited remote corners of the known world. Isaiah chapter 13 verse 21 reads, "But wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures, and owls shall dwell there, and satyrs shall dance there." Many will claim that verses relating to unicorns, dragons, and sea serpents are all mistranslations or only meant metaphorically. This may be true. However, the same is claimed about other parts of the Bible which people take more seriously than unicorns or dragons. If a large number of verses from the Bible cannot be taken at face value, how is it possible to take any of them seriously? This is the big job for Bible scholars studying biblical hermeneutics. Mythological creatures like unicorns, dragons, and sea serpents form part of the rich cultural background behind the books of the Bible. Though only briefly mentioned in biblical texts, these mythical beasts reveal how ancient Middle Eastern traditions, stories, and symbolism shaped biblical depictions of the natural world. Drawing on legends and folklore, the biblical writers used mythic creatures as symbolic images, rhetorical figures, and elements of prophetic visions. These fabulous beasts still capture popular imagination today, bringing to life the fantastical world of monsters, heroics, and wonders that surrounded the landscape of biblical times. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe to Connect Paranormal. This will allow us to make more videos.